Alright, so right off the bat, I just want to say that I am no expert when it comes to approaching strangers, especially girls, but I have done it enough times to know the sort of emotional distress we put ourselves through when we think of doing it. And I'm going to talk mainly about that today and kind of debunk the entire emotional response to the cold approach. So, the reason why I didn't put the word cold in the title, we usually think of it as a cold approach, but I'm just referring to it as an approach today because honestly, the more we give it these scary connotations like cold or like rejection, the more we are inclined not to do it. And the more we don't do it, the more we are scared to do it. Because think about it. If you keep doing something over and over, this goes for anything, but especially something as simple as approaching a stranger, right? I mean, if you do it a few times, you see what works, see what doesn't. But right here, right now, I'm just gonna give you guys the notes on what I've learned from approaching probably around 50 people in my life that were complete strangers. It's nothing really, it's not that much, but it's definitely more than a lot of people did. And I saw a poll on YouTube like, how often do you guys approach a stranger or approach a girl? And most people said never in their life, which I was shocked about. So let's just jump right into it because I know that you guys need this advice, and I'm excited to bring it to you guys. So the main problem with the approach, I guess, is that we psych ourselves out and assume all sorts of different things. So basically, what I would call that is coping. We cope by saying, so let's say I wanted to approach a girl. I would start saying to myself, what if she's too old, too young, with someone, or busy? Those are, I think, the four main excuses, besides just straight up saying to yourself that she won't like you. And that's like a separate problem entirely. That's more of a self-confidence issue. But making these excuses for why you don't want to go up to people, they may be true, but the truth of the matter is, if you're approaching people for the sake of getting a reaction out of them, which I've definitely been guilty of several times in my life, you will probably be disappointed. But if you approach people just for the mere fact of bettering yourself and trying to overcome one of the main fears that we have as a modern day society right now, I would say that the cold approach is pretty much foolproof. Like, if you go in expecting to improve your social skills, you won't be disappointed because you'll have all that data to work with. And each interaction, even though it may be pretty short, it's still very impactful. Like, after one interaction, you have so much better of an idea of how to do it. And I guarantee you, if you approach more than one person in one day, then you will just be better the second time than the first time. It's not like one of those things where you have to spend so much time on it to actually get it to work. Well, of course it depends on the goal. So first you need a goal. If your goal is social skills, you'll win no matter what. If your goal is to make new friends, you'll probably get rejected about half the time depending on how you phrase it. And if your goal is to find a girlfriend or find some sort of hookup, that's going to be the hardest one of all. But that doesn't mean that you shouldn't try. And I can literally remember so many times because in this last week I was in Florida, basically all week. And I had so many opportunities to cold approach girls, but I just never did until the last day. Now, there were several reasons for this. On the last day, I was like, screw it, I'm leaving in an hour, so I might as well just do it. The second reason was because I've seen this person more than once. It was a worker at a coffee shop who I thought was very attractive and figured she seems friendly enough, I might as well strike up a conversation. And what do you know, it went flawlessly. I asked her where she was from. This is a big tip for approaching strangers. Ask them something about themselves or compliment them. Don't start talking about yourself off the bat because they don't care about you. Like, they care about themselves. And if you care about them and they care about themselves, you're kind of matching interests with them. And they're very unlikely to reciprocate well. Like, if you walk up to someone in the gym and say, like, I love your aesthetic or I love your look, what exercise do you do to get your biceps big or something like that, they're almost guaranteed to give you the answer and be very friendly and willing to help you in the future as well. Whereas if you just go up to them and ask them, like, what exercise should I do? Yeah, they'll probably help, but they won't be excited to help. You won't trigger that dopamine reaction in them, which compliments often do. I mean, it's kind of cringy, but if you compliment someone, it is almost guaranteed to work, and it's a great icebreaker as well. So that's one big tip. Compliment people / ask them something about themselves. Asking where they're from is a great icebreaker because we can always relate to where someone is from because we are from somewhere too. So we can go back and forth about it and kind of find commonalities in our upbringing maybe and in our culture that bring us closer together. So I think asking someone where they're from is a great icebreaker. And it's like you can't really go wrong there because a lot of people are scared to say certain things out of fear of sounding creepy or weird, especially around females. But if you ask a girl where they're from, like, nothing can happen. You know what I mean? Like, it's a pretty neutral conversation starter, if you will. And I think that if you go in with the right mindset and you know what to say, roughly, and definitely as you're going into the situation, tell yourself that these people are probably looking to make friends as well. They just don't have the confidence to walk up to you. So you be the bigger person, walk up to them, and literally there's endless possibilities when you approach people. Like, anything can happen, and it's actually super fun once you start getting the hang of it and shake that nervousness. If you can walk into an approach without being nervous, you're set. Like, you're literally good to go because you don't care what the outcome is of the situation. I've had bad outcomes and good outcomes, but it's not necessarily correlated with how I react. Like, sometimes I'm just genuinely in a bad mood and not really feeling up to walking up to people. Obviously that happens a decent amount, I would say. And in those situations, those are the ones where you really want to push yourself because those are the ones where you will get back the most growth. And obviously, use the mental tips that we've talked about countless times on the channel. Tell yourself you're going to die one day, and when you're on your deathbed, you certainly won't be thinking of these approaches that you did when you were a teenager. Obviously, that one's pretty extreme, but like, tell yourself that they also want to meet people as well. And tell yourself that you're worthy of being greeted with respect, if you will. And I think that it's not really that scary of a situation like we think it is. I mean, for me, when I was a kid, I would approach any random stranger without any problem whatsoever. I definitely had less knowledge of the world, definitely had less experience. Why did I do it? Because I wasn't scared of what others thought. Unfortunately, we somehow lose that sense of confidence as we grow older, or at least many of us do. I know I did for some period of my life, and I recall these moments as very liberating. That's another thing too. I'm kind of all over the place today. kind of going on a rant, but I think that you guys enjoy the more unfiltered style of videos, so I'm gonna keep doing it. Anyway, after you do one of these approaches, you feel so much better for some reason, like, because as a man approaching a girl, like, we all have it in us. We just squish it to the bottom of our conscious mind. Like, we try and suppress this need to approach a female and conquer our fear, if you will. We suppress that. Especially if you're single, like, there's literally no point in not doing it. There's nothing bad that can happen. Especially if you start convincing yourself of reasons why you should do it instead of the typical reasons why you shouldn't. Now, if you're planning to approach someone that you know in real life, I guess that kind of defeats the purpose because you would have already known them. But let's say, like, you're trying to get some girl's number and you've already talked to them multiple times. In that case, I would take it slow. Like, get to know them, like, start conversations with them like 4 or 5 times in a row when seeing them. Kind of build up that trust and that level of interest between you guys, and then go in for it, because that's actually very likely to work. I'm betting that would have a higher chance of working than the regular cold approach, but I would say that the regular cold approach is less risky because you oftentimes won't ever see these people again. I've definitely had situations where I asked people for their numbers in, like, restaurants and stuff, and they've been the waiters and waitresses, and I've seen them again, so obviously that's a little bit awkward, but just laugh it off. Don't take anything too seriously too, that's a big one. If you take everything very seriously, you'll be inclined to kind of overreact to the situation. But just go in thinking that there's an endless amount of opportunity waiting for you out there. And yeah, guys, go cold approach a stranger today. Also, here's another big thing. This is very important. I'm very happy I remembered it. It doesn't have to be some crazy approach. Like, you can literally just say, hey, what's up? It's better than not saying anything because you get out of your shell more. Like, you're breaking free of that internal, like, quicksand that we often feel when we want to do something new for the first time or for one of the first times. And if you just smile at a stranger and they smile back, that's good too, because you're working on your facial expression skills. Like, just don't do nothing and you'll be fine. So with that being said, guys, I think I'm going to end it off here because that's pretty much all I wanted to say. And yeah, guys, thank you for watching. I'll see you all soon. Adios.